May you find happiness and peace, and may your home stand the test of time.
Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mary. Today I'll be reacting to another video from Kirk. Today's video is titled Kirk Nuke Abortion Argument. Take responsibility for your orgasm. So without further ado, let's get started.
So this is really a question about abortion.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would say I'm more right on the spectrum, but I've never been able to get over the abortion thing. If it's a goal of the right to lower crime levels, why won't they get behind federally legalizing abortion in all states, not making it a states' rights issue because
I know this.
You know the empirical evidence showing that it reduces crime.
First of all, that's a eugenics argument. So it's like saying we should kill all the prisoners. Okay, so I don't believe that.
Okay.
Right? So you shouldn't just kill people just because it lowers crime. That's very inhumane. And number two, I also just so I understand, you're technically correct in this, and I also think it's really creepy that people use it, not you.
Okay.
It's from Freakonomics, is where this comes from,
that's right,
where they wrote an entire chapter about how abortion lowers the crime rate. So you extrapolate that, you just kill enough people in black and brown neighborhoods, the crime rate goes down. That's effectively the argument they make.
Well, isn't it also like, I know a lot of people probably argue with you about abortion with the quality of life thing, and then you'll probably say you can give birth to the baby and maybe put it up for adoption
Well,
or
of
try.
course,
But
there's twice as many people on the
the quality
adoption
of
list,
life
yes.
of these people, right? It's not great, so they become.
It's a full spectrum thing, and we're conflating two different issues. We have a very simple human rights issue, where you have human beings that are alive that are being killed. That's abortion, and then you have other issues in front of that. So I just ask you on the abortion issue: when does life begin?
Right. I think we'd probably disagree. I do think.
When would you say life begins, though?
I don't know the exact month, but once they develop a heartbeat or a brain,
Yes, like 6 weeks,
absolutely.
right?
Sure.
Yeah, so that's like extreme right wing, like pro-life.
Okay, no.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I'm not putting you on the spot, and I know you're supportive. I think it's important that, like, if we're not willing to fight for those in the womb that we can't see, that we can't observe, then we're just hypocrites, right? And then we're just like, what good are we talking about human rights issues? And so, yes, as far as lowering crime, we talked about this ad nauseum today. The number one way to lower crime is to put dads back in homes.
Yeah.
Number two is more police on streets. Number three is put actual bad criminals away for a long period of time. Number four is we need to fix our educational system, which is a complete disaster. So, but if you told me this, like, hey, Charlie, we can go into Black America, and if we just kill a couple million people, the crime rate goes down. I mean, that's sick. That's abortion.
Right. So then this is just the last.
No, I'm just being like, I just want people to think of it that way.
I get it.
Yeah.
I know. I have friends I've talked to about that. But so like with IVF, like every potential, every time a guy like off, right? Like that's a potential kid.
But it's not a fertilized egg, though.
Right.
That's
it's not
the
a
difference.
fertilized egg, but prior to 6 weeks, when that baby doesn't have
It's
a
a human
heartbeat.
being once the egg is fertilized, once an embryo is fertilized.
But they say potential life though, because things could happen to that baby in the womb, like God forbid. But it's
you're a
still
potential
not,
life, though. I'm a potential life.
I'm a real life because I'm alive. I
Well,
was a
hold on.
potential life. Right?
When did you
And then I was
when did you
born.
stop becoming a potential life?
When I was. So let's say for the sake of the argument, when I got a heartbeat, right?
Okay, so 6 weeks,
as,
got it.
Sure.
But why
Prior to
that
6
definition?
week-
But like, why do you think then? You have to have some standard by which you say then,
Right.
not brain waves, not
Right.
breathing.
Okay, so I would say heartbeat because more likely that baby's going to be born. I would say if it has a heartbeat.
No,
like if
at
there's
6
a
weeks, the baby
complication-
cannot survive outside the womb. At 21 weeks.
No, yeah, absolutely. It just has a better chance.
Okay, so you're talking about like
once it has a
viability. So
heartbeat.
after,
Sure.
like you're talking about
Yeah.
miscarriages, potential viability after 6 weeks. Got it. So the process of development, though, starts at conception.
Right.
Right? So if we must be philosophically and morally consistent, we must say that's when life begins, not some other arbitrary other thing that occurs. For example, my son is 4 months old. He's completely dependent on me, completely dependent on his mother, can't hunt, right? Can't do his own food. Right. Also, is still like his head is still coming together. I don't know if you know that with newborns. Right. The development process is not over. It's just beginning with him. So we say that birth is when you enter the world. Your being actually started 9 months prior to that. Right. Then you add these characteristics along the process of development. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so it's not an easy argument. People think it's okay to dispose of life you can't see that's small, but doesn't that make us like really cruel and evil?
No, yeah, I understand. And then the extreme cases of rape, or just in cases of when a baby's going to be born in a really, really shit circumstance, young
Doesn't matter.
parents, unfit.
Who cares?
So what would you recommend to those people if
Put it up
someone's
for
raped?
adoption. Put it up for adoption, number one. And there's 2 million people on the adoption waiting list right now. But it is never the right thing to murder if a baby's going to be born into a slum. By what moral paradigm is that ever defensive?
If the baby's growing up and then it's I'm not going to say babies don't have feelings when they're in the womb. I'm sure that there's science
But
that they do.
I believe they have souls, right?
Okay,
So,
well, what if it's 1.5 years old and it's dying because it can't eat and it can't get nutrients because its mother
doesn't
can't
happen
breastfeed?
in this country. It doesn't. We have an obesity problem, not a starvation problem. We have food stamps. We have food shelters. In this country, that's not an issue. Now, maybe in sub-Saharan Africa, that's a better argument, for sure.
But so you would just prefer like adoption though and stuff?
Well, adoption, or it's like take responsibility for your orgasms. Like don't get.
But a baby shouldn't be like a punishment though, right? Like
exactly, a baby's not a disease or a tumor, so stop trying to remove it like it's a
Right.
tumor. A baby's not a punishment. A baby's a blessing.
Right.
What an amazing blessing to be able to bring life into the world. You see yourself in that baby, and as someone who's had 2 kids, it changes you. And for those of you that don't have kids that are like, shaking your heads, you have no idea what you're talking about. How all of a sudden you have new conviction, new energy, new spirit, new meaning, new depth, new understanding, where you have this baby that you're responsible for, and you're like, that's going to outlive me. I'm going to raise that child. And you're like, oh yeah, I think it's okay to abort it because it's really small and I can't see it. Like, basically you're saying like the Holocaust would have been fine as long as everyone would have been shorter than you.
Okay.
Right?
I mean, I don't really understand that, but
But think about it. I mean, if it's a small baby and it's not as developed, I mean, by what moral standard is abortion okay? We don't murder based on size. We don't murder based on location. It's not okay to kill people in Milwaukee but keep people alive in Madison. Environment doesn't mean anything. Doesn't matter if like where your current environment is, your moral worth, or your degree of dependency, right? We don't go to old people's homes and start just popping off rounds on people that are, have Alzheimer's or dementia. It's like by no other moral standard do we apply to our existence, do we apply to abortion, because abortion deals with something that makes people so uncomfortable, which is that it deals with sex and pleasure and regret. And we think it's okay then to just kind of sweep a mistake under the rug, something you regret. I'll never think about it before, but there's a victim in that circumstance.
Right, but something you'll regret, something that you would consider a mistake, is a baby. And so obviously you're saying you'd want to have that baby born, but like a person shouldn't regret and mistake and then look at this baby and think about that.
Yeah, that's where you have to take responsibility for your actions. And again, you can put it up for adoption, you can give it up to family members, but under no moral standard should we as human beings ever espouse should you be able to have evil just to make yourself feel better, just to make your life easier. By no moral standard is that okay. And if you think that moral standard is there, then we can have that discussion, right?
Yeah.
But we all know it's not true. You guys are all decent, good people, obviously.
Okay, and then final thing, just what was the ultimate ruling that passed Roe v. Wade?
Yeah,
'Cause I
so
just never,
that's a great question. So Roe versus Wade was never a piece of legislation. So it was never voted on by Congress. It was never signed by a president. It was done by the Warren Court or the Burger Court. I think it was the Warren Court. I forget. It's one of the two. And it was a decision that said basically it was Jane Roe, and then there was also Jane Doe. It's 2 decisions, Roe and Doe, that happened one next to each other, that basically said that you have a national right to abortion except in the final trimester, late term. Now, other states instituted that. So you have a national right to be able to do it. So you saw the abortion industry. Now, what Dobbs did, which was the decision that set this whole thing off, Donald Trump put Amy Coney Barrett, Kavanaugh, and Gorsuch on the Supreme Court. They looked at the interpretation. They said, wait a second, this is a states' rights issue. States can determine it. This is not a national issue. Congress never voted on it. Therefore, there's no national implications. Supreme Court doesn't just get to make a law that implicates all citizens, so they brought it back to the states. That's all that Dobbs did. Agree or disagree? That's just
I didn't even know.
Yeah, for sure.
But why is it what's the benefit of making it a state's issue?
Well, first of all, it's the correct constitutional interpretation. Second of all, from those of us that look at this as a human rights issue, it allows states like Oklahoma and Texas to get rid of abortion so more babies can live.
Okay.
So, but in states like California, Minnesota, and probably Wisconsin, almost no restrictions whatsoever.
Dope.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Thanks, man.
This is why I love Charlie going to college, because this kids right here, they are maybe not well informed. We are all acting based on emotion. Okay, if a lady don't want it, then take it off. But I feel like sometimes we need to speak for these children that are not yet here. They might be in their mom's womb. They have no one to speak for them. So whatever decision we take is what will determine their fate. And we should speak for them and let the world know that yes, it is good to keep these children. Because when they are around, even I think when Charlie asked the question, when does life begins? I feel life begins at conception, when the 2 people meet and it it results to, a child, then I think that is where life begins, when they come together, to me. Anyway, because I feel like most times people feel like, what if you are raped? Don't you have the right to abort? The chance of that happening is like, let's say 3% of how pregnancy happen. Pregnancy mostly happen as a result of pleasure. And when that happen, you know the outcome of your action. You know that when this happen without, let's say, making use of a condom, or let's say you being on birth control, it will definitely lead to a child. So you know the outcome of your action, and you decided not to do anything about it, maybe because you were carried away by the pleasure. And now the result is here. You feel like the easiest way to go about it is, and I feel that is not fair, because we are all here because our parents took the decision to leave us. That is why we are all here. So if you can't take that decision, to bring in the pleasure you had, then I feel we are not being fair to those children. That is it. Anyway, I know sometimes it's a difficult situation, especially when you have your whole life planned out and you feel like this is, kind of limiting you. But I feel like you made that decision. That is why Charlie said, take responsibility for your orgasm. Okay? If you know that this is going to result to this, you don't just indulge in it. So as far as the baby is there, to me the best advice is let the baby come forth. Okay, go through the process, give birth. If you feel you are not able to cater for that child, that is why you are in the state that works. You are in the United States, which you can give out the child for adoption. There are people, thousands of people praying to God every day for a child. You can let them have it, and they can take care of the child, and at least the baby will have a promising future, instead of just deciding the baby fate. Anyway, there's a brief one coming from Charlie. I love this and I want to see more videos from Charlie Kirk. If you have any recommendation, let me know in the comment section. If it is your first time visiting the channel, click on the subscribe button. Thanks for watching and remain blessed.